The wind tore through the remnants of the old ruins, carrying with it the icy sting of winter and the scent of distant fear. Snow swirled like shards of glass, cutting against the little girl's cheeks, wetting her hair and freezing it into thin, sharp strands that clung to her face. She pressed herself against the jagged remains of a broken stone wall, her small body trembling with cold and terror. Every heartbeat thumped in her chest like the frantic pounding of a war drum, echoing in her ears louder than the wind. In her tiny hands she clutched a tattered shawl, the only thing that smelled like home, like safety, like her mother. Her fingers shook not just from the cold, but from the weight of everything that had been stolen from her. A moment ago, everything had been ordinary, mundane even, and now it was chaos. Everything she had known, everything she had held onto, had crumbled like brittle leaves underfoot. And then it happened. The photograph slipped from her pocket. The image of her mother, smiling softly, eyes warm, face framed with the kind of love that could heal all wounds. It fluttered through the air like a tiny white bird caught in a storm. The wind grabbed it and tossed it, almost ripping it from her hands. She lunged, catching it just before it disappeared into the swirling blizzard, clutching it close to her chest. Her tiny lips trembled as she whispered almost to herself, Why did this happen? Why is everything broken? Her voice was swallowed instantly by the howl of the wind, the distant growls that rumbled from unseen wolves, and the quiet, heavy hush that hung like a shroud over the ruins. Fear gripped her chest like a hand squeezing her heart, suffocating her, and yet beneath it all, a strange, unfamiliar warmth began to rise in her palms. She didn't understand it. She had never felt it before, not like this. It pulsed faintly, silver and cold, but alive. It was weak, almost shy, but it was there, flickering, trying to assert itself. And she felt it deep in her chest, like a spark that refused to die, a whisper telling her she was more than she had been told she was. She dared a glance around the crumbled wall. Shadows shifted in the periphery of her vision. Every instinct screamed that someone, or something, was coming. A figure loomed just beyond the trees, moving with a deliberate, terrifying grace. The girl froze, every muscle locked, her heart hammering so loudly she thought it might give her away. Her mind raced. Hide. Fight. She didn't even know what fight meant for someone so small. But instinct, that ancient, unreasoning instinct, told her to press herself lower, to melt into the shadows, to disappear. The snow swirled around her, thick as fog, hiding her from view, yet somehow amplifying the sense that she was completely exposed. The sound of claws scraping against stone, soft but deliberate, made her stomach churn. Her small body quivered and she felt tears freezing on her cheeks. Her hands shook violently as she clutched the photo to her chest, rubbing the warmth of her body against it, as if that alone could shield her from everything out there, the predators, the chaos, the emptiness. And then, in the midst of terror, a memory came unbidden. Her mother's voice, soft and soothing, threading through the storm like a lifeline. Close your eyes, my little fire, and remember, even in darkness you shine. She had sung that lullaby 1,000 times. She hummed it softly under her breath, almost involuntarily, feeling a spark of warmth flood her chest, something delicate and fragile yet insistent. Something inside her answered. Her hands flared. Just for a moment, a tiny shimmer of silver light danced across her palms. It was erratic, wild, uncontrolled, but it pulsed with a kind of life that startled her. She gasped, staring at her own trembling hands as though they belonged to someone else. And then, somewhere beyond the ruins, a low, drawn-out growl answered her, like it had been waiting for her, like it had recognized the spark she hadn't even fully understood yet. The shadows around her thickened, stretching long and sharp across the snow. Figures moved between the ruins, just beyond the reach of her vision. She knew they were there. She felt them deep in her bones, the stalking presence, the calculation, the hunger. And yet a strange, unknowable thing rippled through her fear. A surge of defiance, of power that didn't belong to her age, but to something far older, far stronger, far more dangerous. She tried to steady her breathing, inhaling the icy, bitter air. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, fog curling from her lips like smoke from a dying fire. She pressed herself lower, hiding behind a toppled pillar, but the snow betrayed her. Each flake, each step, each heartbeat sounded like a drum announcing her presence. She could almost feel the hunters, the predators, whatever had thrown her life into this chaos, closing in. And then, movement. A figure stepped forward, slow, deliberate, silent in the snow. Even in the storm she could see him. Tall, imposing, powerful. The kind of presence that made the world feel smaller, the kind of gaze that could strip your defenses before you even knew to build them. He wasn't a hero, not in the way fairy tales described, but he radiated something dangerous, magnetic, undeniable. The girl froze. He crouched, careful not to startle her, yet completely unafraid. He studied her, amber eyes glowing faintly in the storm, almost as if he were reading the turmoil inside her tiny chest. And for the first time she felt it, a strange aching pull toward him like a thread she didn't understand, connecting her to someone who should have been nothing but a stranger. The air between them was tense, charged, filled with danger, fear, and something else. Something that made her cheeks burn despite the cold. Something that made her chest ache with a confusing mix of terror and longing. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She wanted to cry. And yet, for reasons she couldn't begin to name, she stayed frozen, clutching the photograph as if it alone could hold her together. The wind howled around them, whipping snow into their faces, blurring vision and reality. The ruins groaned under the weight of the storm. Every shadow could hide a predator, every rustle of trees could be death. But still the girl stayed, sensing that this figure, this alpha, was both her greatest danger and her most tenuous thread of hope. Her heart thrummed wildly. She felt the silver light inside her pulse stronger, responding to the tension, to the fear, to the weight of everything she had lost and everything she might yet claim. It was wild, untamed, terrifying. And yet it felt right. And in that moment, in the freezing chaos of snow, blood, and shadow, she whispered to herself, not fully aware of what she was saying but knowing it carried weight. I will survive. I must. And as the figure moved closer, silent and deliberate, she caught the faintest trace of something protective. Something that promised he was not there to harm her. Maybe, just maybe. The wind screamed, snow blinded, shadows danced. And the photograph of her mother, clutched tight to her chest, seemed to glow faintly as if it carried a piece of the magic, the fire, that was beginning to stir within her. If your heart is already racing with her story, if every snowflake and shadow pulled you in, subscribe to Anne's Romance Collections. Here we tell tales that burn, tales that make your soul ache, tales that you will never forget. The wind screamed like a living thing, clawing through the ruins, and the snow whipped the girl's face with icy fingers. She pressed herself lower against the jagged stones, afraid to breathe, afraid to move, afraid to be seen. Every nerve in her body was on fire with tension. And then, a shadow detached itself from the white blurred forest. He stepped lightly over the broken earth, his presence unmistakable, impossible to ignore. He was massive, broad-shouldered, and every movement exuded raw, deliberate strength. Scars traced his jawline, etched into his flesh like silent stories, battles survived, secrets kept. His eyes burned amber in the fading light, molten, piercing, eyes that seemed to see every crack in the girl's trembling heart, every flicker of silver flame she barely understood. And yet he did not strike. He did not demand. He did not move like a predator ready to finish her. Instead he crouched, careful not to loom over her, careful not to frighten her more than she already was. His gaze swept over her like a storm, intense, searching, but also soft, curious, almost protective. It made her chest pound, a mix of fear and something she didn't have a name for yet. She stared at him wide-eyed. The photograph in her hand trembled. Why is my mom's photo in your Luna's tomb?" she whispered, voice cracking under the weight of everything she had lost. The words barely rose above the howl of the wind. His gaze softened just a fraction, as though her question had pierced through his armor, to something raw and tender he had buried long ago. "She meant more to me than you could ever understand," he said, low, steady, but heavy with guilt, longing, and something deeper, something that made the air between them feel electric. The girl's heart raced. His words were a balm and a warning at the same time. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. And yet, every instinct screamed that she should run. The world had taught her that trust was dangerous, that hope was a trap, that love was pain waiting to happen. And still she couldn't tear her eyes away. He shifted slightly, scanning the snow-draped forest around them. His ears, human but somehow attuned beyond what she could see, twitched. His jaw clenched. He froze. A distant howl sliced through the night, sharp and urgent. The girl flinched. So did he. And in that moment they were bound by the same thread of threat, the same shared pulse of imminent danger. The Alpha's mind raced. Memories of her mother surged unbidden. Her laughter, her soft voice calling his name in the moonlight, the warmth of her hand against his in a world that had no warmth for them. Guilt washed over him like a flood. I should have protected her. I failed her once. I will not fail her again. The thought was a promise, raw and trembling in the icy air. And in the girl, tiny and fragile but burning with a hidden fire, hope sparked. A fragile, flickering flame that made her stomach twist with a strange combination of fear and longing. Her pulse matched his, though she didn't understand why. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But the presence of this man, this alpha, made her feel safe. Strange, dangerous, uncertain safety. The snow swirled in wild, chaotic patterns. Each shadow between the trees seemed alive, moving, watching. Faint streaks of blood stained the white ground, reminders of threats that lurked just out of sight. The wind carried the smell of wet fur and iron, a warning. And still there was a strange stillness between them. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath, the storm paused, and the two of them, a small girl trembling in the snow and a towering alpha scarred by time and loss, stood frozen, bound by circumstance and an invisible thread that neither could name. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her trembling hands. The silver flame inside her pulsed faintly, reacting to his presence, reacting to the fear, the hope, the strange connection she could not yet understand. And he saw it. He knew it. Not in full, but enough to make him wary, to make him recognize the potential, danger and power intertwined, fragile and wild, just like her. The howl came again, closer now, a chilling reminder that her pursuers were near. The alpha tensed, every muscle coiled and ready, but he didn't step away from her. Instead he shifted his stance, protective, alert but patient. It was a promise, I am here. I will not leave you. Even if the world would. Her mind wavered between disbelief and the first spark of trust. Her heart raced with hope she had no right to feel. And yet, for the first time since the ruins had swallowed her world, she felt it. A thread of connection, fragile, tenuous, but real. The wind whipped harder. Shadows danced. The ruins groaned under the storm. But for a moment, one fragile, fleeting heartbeat, the girl and the alpha stood together, isolated in a world that wanted to tear them apart, bound by fear and something unspoken, something electric, something dangerous and yet warm. As the alpha scanned the snow-drenched ruins, the girl pressed herself against the cold stone, her mind drifting unwillingly into memories that cut sharper than any wind. Her mother had been a light in a world that demanded darkness. The lullabies she had sung in the warmth of a safe home now felt like fragile whispers against the roar of the storm outside. Close your eyes, my little fire, and remember, even in darkness you shine. She repeated the words quietly, her voice a trembling thread weaving through the chaos. Her mother's death had been sudden. Her pack had turned their backs. Politics, jealousy, fear of her bloodline, all wrapped into one cruel, suffocating reality. She had been exiled, declared dangerous, cursed. And yet, even in that rejection, the spark within her had refused to die. A silver flame, strange and rare, flickered in her veins, a mark of bloodline that carried power her young mind barely understood. She shivered as she remembered the old pack's faces, accusing, fearful, cruel. They had called her a curse, a danger, a weapon, and every word had cut into her, leaving scars deeper than any wound the storm could inflict. She had learned early that no one could be trusted, that family could betray, that love could burn. And yet, the alpha saw something different. Even now, with snow whipping around them, he had looked at her not as a weapon, not as a cursed child, but as someone precious, fragile, yet capable of far more than she herself could imagine. His gaze lingered, heavy with questions and something unspoken, and her small heart twisted with a mixture of longing and fear. She tried, weakly, hesitantly, to control the silver flame within her hands. It flickered, rebellious, wild, refusing to bend. Her fingers shook and the cold seemed to seep deeper into her bones as the realization hit. She was powerful, dangerous, untamed. And if she failed, it could cost her everything, herself, him, the world she barely understood. Memories of her mother's whispered warnings floated to her mind, soft and haunting. You are not ordinary, my fire. Do not let the world define you. Do not let fear define you. But know this, you will not walk alone if you trust, even in shadows. He shivered. Trust. A concept that had been stripped from her like so much else. Could she trust him? Could she trust anyone? Her eyes flicked up at him again. The alpha shifted slightly, moving with careful precision, alert to every whisper of movement in the forest. He was a puzzle of contradictions, danger and warmth, strength and vulnerability, caution and desire. She wanted to reach out. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She wanted to trust. She didn't know which would kill her first, hope or fear. The snow continued to fall, relentless, each flake a reminder of the world she had lost and the storm she could not escape. And yet, even in the chaos, even in the fear, even in the uncertainty, something inside her began to awaken. A power, a spark, a fire that was hers alone, responding to the presence of the Alpha, responding to the storm, responding to the aching emptiness in her chest. Her small hands glowed faintly, the silver flame dancing and twitching as if it had a will of its own. And he noticed. He saw it in her, recognized it, and in that recognition was something terrifying and exhilarating. Possibility. Thank you. Danger. Love. All woven together like the threads of a tapestry neither of them yet fully understood. The forest opened before them like a secret breathing entity. Trees stretched high, skeletal yet alive, their branches twisting in impossible shapes as if shaping themselves around some unseen energy. The snow gave way to soft moss, and beneath it faint pulses of warmth seeped into the girl's frozen toes. She followed the Alpha cautiously, her small feet crunching over roots and leaves, heart thundering, eyes wide. She felt it first as a tug in her chest, a strange pull that made her chest ache. Something was calling her here. They reached a grove that seemed suspended outside of time. Moonlight filtered through the high canopy, illuminating runes etched into the bark of ancient trees. Symbols glowed faintly, silver against the dark bark, resonating with a low hum that vibrated through the soles of her feet and up into her chest. Her silver flame pulsed in response, faintly at first, then with sudden insistence as if recognizing the power of the grove. Visions assaulted her senses. Fire, molten and silver, licked the edges of her vision. Wolves ran through a forest bathed in crimson moonlight. Her mother smiled at her, sad but knowing, lips moving in a whisper she could not hear. A chill ran down her spine as the air seemed to thrum with energy older than the mountains themselves. A voice echoed through the grove, distant but crystalline, reverberating in the trees and snow. The Alpha will fall for the one who bears her mark. The girl froze. Her silver flame blazed faintly, her hands trembling. The Alpha stepped closer, not touching, only observing, his gaze heavy with fascination and caution. He knelt to her level, amber eyes reflecting both awe and fear. This place, it chooses. It knows who is worthy. And it recognizes you. His voice was low, reverent, as if speaking the words aloud made them real. She blinked up at him, fear mingling with something she could not name. Desire? Longing? Oh. Her chest tightened. She felt exposed yet significant, like the world was waiting to test her in ways she could not yet comprehend. The grove pulsed with her presence. Leaves shimmered silver, rocks trembled underfoot, and the ground vibrated faintly. Her power stirred, uncontrolled. A small burst of silver energy shot from her palms, curling around the nearest stones, lifting them slightly before letting them drop with a soft thud. Leaves caught the silver fire for a heartbeat before extinguishing. The Alpha's eyes widened, a mixture of caution and awe shadowing his features. Her breath came fast. I didn't mean, she whispered. But he only shook his head slightly, a small, almost imperceptible smile brushing his lips. You are more than you know, he said. And this is only the beginning. The girl's heart ached with longing, awe, and fear. She wanted to believe she could be worthy, wanted to understand this power, this destiny, yet every instinct warned her of danger. And as if answering her fear, shadows moved along the edge of the grove. Distant figures, unseen but watching, rival pack scouts, eyes glinting with hostility, teeth bared in anticipation of chaos. She glanced toward the Alpha. He noticed her hesitation and stepped closer, protective, unwavering. He spoke softly, almost to himself, recounting the legends etched into the grove. Child of the flame, one who will rise when the moon weeps, a rare birth, the power to change the fate of all our kind. Each word was deliberate, filled with a fascination that bordered on awe. Her chest tightened further as visions flashed again. Fire, wolves, her mother's smile, her own trembling hands glowing with silver light. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She wanted to sink into the snow and disappear. But the pull of destiny, of prophecy, of something ancient and powerful, held her rooted to the spot. She raised her hands slightly, testing the silver flame again. The grove responded, subtle at first. A shimmer of leaves, a vibration through the roots. And then, suddenly, a flicker of energy shot into the air, drawing her attention. She gasped as she realized she was touching something bigger than herself. Something dangerous. Something that could either protect her or destroy everything. And beyond the grove, just beyond the edge of perception, eyes glinted from the shadows. The distant rival pack had begun their approach, drawn by the stirrings of power, oblivious to the prophecy's true intent. Their presence was a whisper of threat, a pulse of fear that made the girl's silver flame flare uncontrollably, leaving a faint trail of sparkling embers in the cold night air. The tranquility of the grove shattered like glass underfoot. Shadows lunged from the edge of the trees, moving with lethal precision. Wolves, sleek and black as night, eyes glinting with malevolence, circled the grove. Figures cloaked in dark fur and armor appeared, rival alphas and their hunters, coming to claim power that was not theirs. The girl's chest heaved. Her hands flared with silver fire, illuminating her terrified, flushed face. Her instinct screamed to run, to hide, but the grove was no longer safe. Panic clawed at her throat. She took a shaky step back and the silver flames erupted, licking the snow, dancing across stone, illuminating the chaos in bursts of blinding brilliance. The alpha was immediately at her side, moving with a predator's grace, his presence a shield. Each movement he made was calculated, lethal, precise. Claws, teeth, and silver flashes collided in the snow as he defended her, holding back the assault while keeping her within his protective radius. The girl's heart thundered. Fear and exhilaration coiled together in her chest, a chaotic storm. She had never felt so alive, so terrified, so powerful all at once. Shouts rang from the rival alphas, accusing and commanding, mingling with the growls of shadow beasts. The alpha's amber eyes met hers, locking in a silent command. Trust me. Stay with me. Survive. She nodded, too terrified to speak, too aware that her survival depended on something larger than herself. His strength, her fledgling power, and the strange bond they had begun to form. Her silver flame responded to her fear, to her adrenaline, surging uncontrollably. Snow melted where she stepped. Rocks lifted briefly, suspended by the energy she could barely control. A tendril of silver light arced toward an incoming wolf, startling it and forcing it back. The girl gasped, part horror, part awe. I can do this. She realized in a shivering rush that she was not helpless. Not completely. The alpha's face was a mask of focus and worry. He moved to intercept, but the elder's warning echoed in his mind, a whisper that gnawed at his conscience. Choose your people, not her. Danger follows her. He clenched his jaw, amber eyes burning as he realized the impossible choice ahead. Protect the child who held the spark of prophecy, or obey the rules of the pack he had sworn to protect. Shadow beasts surged again. She stumbled back, cornered, flaring her silver flames in a desperate, uncontrolled burst. Her small hands glowed, illuminating the night with pale fire. The alpha dove, moving like lightning, positioning himself between her and the immediate threat. His claws flashed, teeth bared, a living shield, and for a heartbeat, the girl saw the weight of his protective instincts, the guilt that surged in him for putting her in danger. Her breath caught. She felt her power grow, trembling and raw, coursing through her veins like a river ready to overflow. And she understood in that terrifying, exhilarating moment that she was no longer a mere child running from danger. She was a force, unrefined, dangerous, capable of destruction and protection alike. The air was thick with tension, snow swirling like smoke, silver flames lashing out, the howl of wolves and beasts blending into a symphony of chaos. Every heartbeat was a drum of life and fear. Every movement demanded vigilance, instinct, courage. The alpha's amber gaze never left her. His presence was both anchor and shield, a living testament that even in chaos, someone could stand for her even if the world refused. And as the rival forces pressed, circling and attacking, one question lingered in the storm of her mind. Could she trust him fully? Could she survive this night? Could she embrace the destiny that demanded she rise amid fire, blood, and shadow? Night had settled like a velvet shroud over the grove, and the girl followed the alpha into a cave hidden beneath twisted roots and rock. Inside, firelight flickered, dancing against walls damp with the scent of earth and stone. Her silver flame, still flickering faintly from the battle, reflected on the rough walls, painting the cave with ethereal light. The warmth of the fire felt foreign to her, a softness she had not known since her mother's lullabies. The Alpha knelt across from her, amber eyes softened by firelight, yet still fierce with caution. His gaze lingered on her trembling hands, the faint glow of silver that resisted fading. "You've grown stronger," he murmured, his voice low, reverent, yet touched with unspoken worry. "But strength is not only about power. It's about knowing who you can trust." She swallowed hard, afraid of revealing too much. I don't even know if I can trust myself," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Fear curled around her chest like icy chains. "I hurt people without meaning to. I don't want to." He reached out, hesitant, cautious but steady. His wolf-enhanced senses guided his hands to hers, feeling the trembling pulse beneath her skin. His touch was warm, grounding, an anchor amidst the chaos she carried. A healing touch, not just of flesh but of spirit, as if he could absorb the fear clinging to her bones. "I see all of you," he said softly, his voice deliberate, a confession and a reassurance all at once. "Even the parts you hide, even the parts you fear." Her chest tightened. She blinked, struggling to keep composure, and in that moment, vulnerability and longing collided inside her. The flame in her hands pulsed brighter, an instinctive reflection of her rising emotions. He moved closer, just a fraction, careful to respect her space yet impossible to ignore. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat the storm outside ceased to matter. He felt it then, the first stirring of something new, trust, fragile and trembling but real. "I lost my Luna once," he admitted quietly, staring into the fire as if reliving a wound that never healed. "Loneliness. It's a hunger I thought I could never escape. Leadership, loss. They leave scars you cannot see but you feel every day." His amber eyes flicked to her, fierce yet tender. "I've made mistakes, but I will not fail again. Not you." She felt a lump rise in her throat. Could someone care for me? Could someone see past the chaos and fear? Her small hand lifted, almost trembling, and rested against his. The heat from his touch burned through the lingering frost in her veins. She wanted to recoil, to run, yet she could not. His presence anchored her, even as it awakened desires she had never known were possible. Moonlight spilled into the cave through a jagged crack, silver beams illuminating the mark on her wrist, the faint scarlet threads of prophecy. She traced it with her fingers, mesmerized. He watched silently, a mixture of fascination and caution shadowing his features. Their breathing synchronized, firelight and moonlight weaving shadows that danced along the walls. Intimate, fleeting, a moment outside time itself. A lull hung over them. Words seemed too heavy, too dangerous. She finally whispered, "Do you trust me?" The question trembled on her lips, but he answered without hesitation. "I trust the part of you that is brave enough to face the storm, even when the world turns against you." And then a beat of silence, hearts beating together, eyes locked, almost touching. She leaned in instinctively. He leaned closer, his presence overwhelming, protective, intoxicating. Their lips were a breath apart, tension taut as a drawn bowstring, the night heavy with promise and unspoken desire. Almost, but not yet. Danger still lurked outside, shadows still pressed at the edges, reminding them both that this was not a place for softness, yet not a place to resist it either. The fire crackled. The silver flame in her hands dimmed slightly, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her quickened heartbeat. And in that shared, silent acknowledgement, they both understood. Trust was not optional. It was the only way they could survive the storm to come. Morning broke, gray and cold, revealing the grove in stark clarity. Snow glittered like shattered glass across the branches. The Alpha led her out cautiously, expecting serenity, expecting perhaps quiet after the night's chaos. But the world had other plans. They emerged to the council assembled, eyes cold and hard, the elders' judgment sharp as knives. Whispers turned to shouts as one elder stepped forward, voice quivering with indignation and fear. "The child, she bears the mark of prophecy. Her flames will destroy us all." The girl froze. Blood rushed in her ears, drowning out the wind and the cries of the forest. Fear gripped her chest like iron chains. The world had turned against her again, and the Alpha's presence at her side offered only partial solace. His jaw tightened, amber eyes scanning the council. Loyalty to pack, rules, tradition. All threatened to collide with the bond he had forged with her in the cave. Her silver flame flared instinctively, a small pulse, but one enough to draw gasps and a step backward from the council. The power inside her stirred, responding to fear and betrayal alike. She had been warned once by her mother. Trust sparingly, fight fiercely, and never let them define you. Her mother's words echoed now like a drumbeat, each one fueling the fire that rose unbidden within her. One of the rival alphas, cloaked in black fur and malice, stepped forward, twisting the prophecy to serve fear. Her fire will bring ruin, he shouted, voice sharp as glass. She cannot be controlled. She is a danger to us all. The girl's chest heaved. Rage and despair collided, a storm she could not contain. Her small hands trembled, silver light spilling from her palms, illuminating the horrified faces around her. She felt every memory of rejection, every moment of exile, every whispered warning from her mother surge through her veins. I will not be broken again. The alpha hesitated, torn. He wanted to step forward to protect her, yet the weight of tradition pressed against him. His heart battled his duty. Choose your people or the child. The inner conflict twisted in him like a knife. His amber eyes met hers, a silent plea, a promise. I will not abandon you. Her silver flames erupted suddenly, fiercely, uncontrollably. The immediate threat, the rival alpha lunging forward, the elders shouting, the shadows of judgment pressing in, was consumed in a blaze of radiant silver fire. Snow and stone trembled. The ground glimmered, energy flowing from her like molten metal made of moonlight. She did not pause. He did not think. She acted. Survival, fury, and destiny propelled her hands. The council reeled backward, some screaming, some frozen. Smoke and light intertwined, blinding the grove. In slow motion she turned to flee, the devastation she had wrought a blur behind her. Rocks levitated briefly in the silver glow, leaves burned with quiet luminescence, and shadows scattered as if afraid of the light she now commanded. The alpha followed closely, heart pounding, guilt gnawing at him. Every step she took reminded him of the danger he had allowed her to face. And yet he could not bring himself to stop her. He simply watched, silent and steady, amber eyes locked on her, ready to shield her from whatever came next. A flashback surged unbidden in her mind. Her mother's gentle hand, whispering cautions about trust and betrayal. Her mother's eyes had warned of moments like this, moments when the world would show its claws. She shivered, pain and resolve mingling as her power raged within her, responding to both fear and fury. They stopped at the edge of the grove. The alpha's hand rested near hers, not touching but close enough for reassurance, his gaze heavy with promise and warning. Their eyes met, and the silent understanding passed between them. This was far from over. There would be consequences and the world would demand vengeance. But together, if they could survive the storm ahead, they could face anything. The grove, now scarred with silver embers and fractured earth, bore witness to the awakening of her power, the bond forming between two souls against the world, and the first true taste of freedom, raw, terrifying, and beautiful. The grove trembled underfoot, snow and ice shivering like glass about to break. The enemy had advanced, rival alpha snarling, shadow beasts slinking, corrupted Luna spirits rising from the shadows, eyes burning with malice. Their claws dug into earth and stone, leaving streaks of darkness in their wake. The girl's chest heaved, lungs burning, as if the very air demanded she surrender to fear. But she did not. She could not. The silver flame surged from her, coiling around her small frame like a living thing, bright, unyielding. The ancestral voices whispered in her ears, resonant and clear as if hundreds of generations of women and wolves sang in unison. You are the flame. You are the power. You are the rightful heir. The light pulsed through her veins, burning away doubt, fear, and hesitation. Her hands glowed brighter, limbs trembling as the energy coursed outward. She felt herself transform. First subtly, muscles tightening, senses sharpening, heart sinking with a new rhythm. Then her wolf form emerged, silver fur glinting with firelight, eyes molten, claws extended, a creature of legend and fury, yet still herself. She roared, and the sound split the night, echoing through the trees like an unrelenting storm. The alpha fought at her side, amber eyes gleaming with admiration, fear, and love. His claws tore through shadow beasts with lethal precision. Together they moved as one, silver and amber light intertwining, bodies fluid and synchronized, a tempest of fury against chaos. Every movement she made was charged with emotion. Fear transformed into courage, sorrow into vengeance, desperation into raw, radiant power. She caught sight of her mother's photo, fluttering near the edge of the battlefield, snowflakes melting against the paper. The image glowed faintly, infused with silver light, as if her mother's spirit lent strength to her, whispering courage into her ears. "You are not alone. You are never alone." The girl's chest swelled, her heart no longer trembling with doubt but burning with purpose. A rival alpha lunged, teeth bared, fury in every motion. She met him head-on, silver flames cascading from her claws, wrapping around him, searing the shadow that had consumed his form. He fell, screaming, the energy of her ancestral power scorching the ground beneath him. The earth shook. Cracks formed along the grove's floor, light spilling from the fissures, illuminating the devastation she wielded. The corrupted Luna spirits retaliated, swirling around her, shadows dark as night yet shimmering with tainted silver. She did not flinch. She breathed in, feeling the pull of generations of shifters, the bloodline pulsing, the mark glowing like a sun on her wrist. Then she unleashed it, a blast of silver fire that split the moonlight above, scattering clouds, cracking ice, bending the very air. Spirits shrieked, their forms torn asunder, and the grove was cleansed in luminous fire, snow sparkling like diamonds under the glow. Her heart raced, body alive with power, but her mind found the alpha's gaze. He was near, hands slick with blood and shadow yet unwavering. He whispered through gritted teeth almost tenderly amid the chaos, "I never doubted you, not even once." The words struck her like a lance, warmth flooding through the fury. Trust, love and understanding flowed between them, unspoken, undeniable. As the enemy leader fell, a heavy silence descended, broken only by her rapid breathing and the crackling remnants of fire. But the ground rumbled beneath them, deeper, ominous. Something darker stirred beneath the earth, unseen yet palpable, a reminder that even victory could be fleeting. The girl's chest tightened, silver flames flickering in her palms as realization struck. This battle was won, but the war, the destiny, was only beginning. She lifted her head, wolf form poised, ears twitching, eyes glowing, breath steaming in the cold air. The alpha mirrored her stance, amber and silver light entwining as they surveyed the quiet battlefield. Love, vengeance, destiny, each thread braided into the next. And in that charged silence the girl understood. She was no longer a child. She was the fire that could not be tamed. The grove lay scarred but still alive, silver embers drifting in the wind like spirits of triumph. Wolves howled in the distance, echoing the girl's own heartbeat, rising and falling with the rhythm of destiny. She stood, small yet infinite, her silver flame blazing faintly, eyes alight with power, fear, and the weight of everything she had become. A voice whispered in the wind, almost a challenge. Would you have chosen her, or feared her too? The question lingered, heavy and intimate, brushing against every listener's chest. Could anyone witness the fire, the courage, the pain and still turn away? Could love coexist with fear? She glanced at the alpha, amber eyes soft yet resolute, protective yet filled with unspoken longing. He had chosen her, risked everything, and stood beside her against a world that demanded fear, obedience, and conformity. She knew their bond was forged not by chance, but by fire, by destiny, by the undeniable truth that sometimes, the greatest power was love intertwined with courage. And now the story whispered to the audience like a hand brushing against the soul. Is she a hero, or a child cursed with too much fire? Could anyone truly say, standing at the edge of prophecy, witnessing raw power and vulnerability alike? The wind carried her voice, faint yet clear, a heartbeat away from the edge of night. If this story lit a fire in your heart, subscribe to Anne's Romance Collections. As here, we tell tales that burn. The forest darkened. Shadows lengthened, snow drifting silently across the broken, glowing earth. Distant howls faded into the night, a haunting melody that promised both danger and hope. The girl's silver flame glimmered against the encroaching darkness, an emblem of power, love, and destiny unresolved. The story paused, the tension held in perfect balance, a silent dare to the listener. Who would they choose when the fire came? The grove lay in quiet devastation. Smoke spiraled lazily from scorched snow, drifting toward the darkened sky, curling around the skeletal remains of trees. The girl walked carefully, small hands brushing over silver embers that clung to frozen branches, feeling the residual warmth of her own power thrumming beneath her skin. Each step left faint silver footprints in the snow, an imprint of fire and destiny intertwined. The Alpha followed closely, tall, solid, every movement measured yet protective. Amber eyes flickered between the girl, the ruins, and the darkening horizon, alert to every shadow, every whisper of movement. Even in victory, the weight of leadership pressed upon him. He extended a hand, letting her grip it briefly, anchoring her to reality, to safety, to him. The contact was fleeting but unshakable, a silent promise. She was never alone. Moonlight broke through the clouds, silver and ethereal, illuminating her glowing mark. The reflection danced across her skin, tracing lines of power and destiny. For a moment she paused, mesmerized, feeling every beat of her heart echo in tandem with the pulse of the world around her. The wind carried whispers, ancestral voices, guiding, warning, urging. Her breath came out in frost-laden puffs, mingling with the smoke from ruined branches. She felt both infinite and fragile, the center of prophecy yet still a child learning to wield it. Then beneath the rhythmic whisper of the wind, a deeper sound emerged. A low, almost imperceptible rumble like the heartbeat of the earth itself. The girl stiffened, eyes widening as the Alpha's gaze sharpened. Neither spoke, yet both felt it. An omen, a warning, something ancient stirring in the depths of the world. The ground trembled underfoot, small cracks forming in ice-laden soil, and in the shadows beyond the grove, a figure shifted. Motion too deliberate, too controlled to be mere animal. "She is not the only one," a voice hissed, dark and melodic, carried on the wind like a serpent's whisper. It slithered through trees, through smoke, brushing against the girl's consciousness like a cold hand. Her silver flames flickered, reacting instinctively to the threat, a subtle shimmer of power dancing across her fingertips. The Alpha's jaw tightened, stance widening, claws brushing the frozen earth. Protective, vigilant, unyielding. His voice, low and urgent, cut through the silence. "Stay close. Whatever this is, we face it together." The girl nodded, chest rising and falling, heart drumming in her ears. She had grown stronger tonight, more than she had ever imagined, but instinct whispered that this was only the beginning. Behind her, the scorched grove whispered tales of battles fought and powers awakened. Ahead, the shadows hinted at threats unseen, enemies plotting, forces gathering, challenges that would test not just her strength but her courage, her love, and her very sense of self. In the distance, faint lights of a small town shimmered under the moon, unaware of the chaos that had swept the forest. For a fleeting moment, the girl imagined herself safe there, ordinary, small. But safety was a lie she no longer could believe in. The Alpha lifted her gently, carrying her across broken ground, his hands steady, movements careful, protective. She rested her head against his shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of pine, smoke, and something uniquely him. A scent she now associated with trust, with survival, with love that was forged in fire. A sharp movement caught her eye. A shadow fleeting, watching, plotting. A rival observing from afar, cloaked in darkness, expression hidden but intent unmistakable. Her pulse quickened, silver flame brushing against her skin, ready, alert. The Alpha sensed it too, tightening his hold, amber eyes scanning the distance. Together they moved forward, the bond between them deeper, forged in battle, trust, and the shared weight of destiny. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of smoke and the metallic tang of power lingering in the air. The girl whispered softly, almost to herself, "It isn't over, is it?" The Alpha shook his head, voice low, almost reverent. "No, it's only begun. The fire has awakened, and it cannot be contained." Behind them, the grove shimmered, remnants of silver flame weaving through charred branches like veins of molten light. The shadows whispered again, echoing into the distance. Something waited, silent, patient, ancient. The prophecy was alive, pulsing through the girl, through the Alpha, through the world itself. And somewhere, hidden in darkness, the true Alpha, or something far greater than anyone had imagined, was stirring. Their silhouettes, small yet resolute against the silvered ruins, moved toward the faint lights of the town. Moonlight caught the Alpha's amber eyes, reflecting promise, warning, and the unspoken truth. Survival alone would not define them. Destiny awaited, challenging, ruthless, yet irresistible. And as they disappeared into the night, a lingering voice, cold and prophetic, whispered one last time. The fire has awakened, and it cannot be contained. The wind carried the words into the trees, into the night, into the hearts of those who would hear them. And the story paused there, suspended between what was, what is, and what was yet to come.